that aspect of reality. But I that's something that I never want to forget about. Like, I don't want to live my life being like, oh, like I'm a minority, so things are more difficult for me. But I do have to constantly remind myself I am not the majority, therefore my experience is altered, or like I have to deal with these prejudices and biases that people will have against me. And I've become more aware of it now because, you know, I'm learning about these things in school and why people think the way that they do. But I think it is important for people in the U.S. to just keep that in the back of your mind.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to school. But don't worry, everything is cool. I'm your host, Jalissa, and of course, I am here with the boys, Steve and Brandon. Say what's up, you guys.
What's up?
And we have a very special guest today. We got Ambar Lucid.
Hey.
Hey.
Well, welcome.
It's 420 right now, guys.
My favorite holiday.
Yeah. So if you're out there watching this episode, maybe smoke a joint, take some acid,
Bro.
do LSD.
It's about weed, bro.
420 is all it's all inclusive.
Take
That's
some
what I like to believe.
All right,
yeah.
take some shrooms. Mix it with some shrooms.
Yeah. But it's nice to have you here, Amber. I'm super grateful that you came and are giving us your presence.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with me today. Too much caffeine. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I was really curious to know, like, so obviously we know you because of your musical career, and I was really curious as to how that began, like where that really started, and how's the emotions changed as you gotten older.
Yeah, so the way that I got into the music industry, whenever I think about it too much, it's really trippy because it happened so easily for me. By the age of 11, I knew that being an artist was the path that I wanted to take, just because I was obsessed with pop culture. And so at 11, I taught myself how to play guitar, and then eventually I started writing my own songs at 15, and I uploaded them on SoundCloud. And people started re-uploading the stuff that I put up on SoundCloud on YouTube, and then those YouTube videos got a bunch of views, and that's how people in the music industry found me and started reaching out to me on socials, and I started talking to people who DM'd me or messaged me on SoundCloud, and that's how I ended up connecting with my first manager, and he asked me, I remember the first phone call that we ever had, he was like, what do you see, what do you want in music? Like, what do you see for your future? And I was like, I just want to be able to make music for the rest of my life. And he was like, okay, I can help you set that up. And he helped me build a foundation. And now I'm like 6 or 7 years in deep into this journey, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I was just a kid. I really did not like my life as a teenager, and just was desperately looking for a way out. So wanting to be in the music industry was my way of mentally like surviving. Like, I would escape my reality by fantasizing about being an artist until I actually became an artist, and I was like, oh, this is crazy.
Yeah.
What am I doing? What is happening? What is going on? Now I see how big of a responsibility it is to be an artist. It's not just making music or writing music. It's so many other things. And
Do you mean that like do you have to use your platform sometimes for like responsible things, or what do you mean exactly by like it goes beyond just making music?
that's part of it. You just have to be aware of a lot if you want to have a successful career. Like, you have to, it's best if you understand business, if you understand what it's like to work with people, if you understand that, I mean, you have to be like a creative director, a producer, a songwriter,
PR manager.
Yeah.
Marketing, all that.
yeah, all of those things. Like, you need to not like, you don't have to master all of those things, but you need to have at least a little bit of knowledge to know what you're doing, and not just put your life in other people's hands. Because I did that for a long time. I was just like, oh, everyone else knows better than me. And that's when things started going downhill, whenever I relied too much on others and like didn't have any real clarity on what I should do or how I should go about things. That's usually when things become not fun.
Yeah, because I wonder about that too. Like, because I think everybody fantasizes that if their career, their dream job, like, started really taking off, that it would be this fantasy, like this paradise. But I'm sure, was it kind of nerve-wracking? Because at least for us, when we saw our videos getting a little bit more traction, I had like this weird existential crisis about like, there's these eyes that are like perceiving me and having all these opinions about me, but like I don't know of their existence. And not in a like I'm trying to be disrespectful and diss them, but I imagine for you it's like amplified times like 100 whatever we went through. So I'm really curious as to like, how did that feel?
Well, I feel like it's been a privilege to have become an artist, a full-time artist, so young, because now I've been in it for so long that I don't even really, not that I don't think about other people perceiving me, but that's not something that bothers me. Like I've gotten so used to it. I'm not uncomfortable by it, but I think that's because I've made a lot of inner work. I think when you become a public figure, or when you're somebody who's perceived by a lot of people, whatever you're carrying inside just gets amplified. And
Totally,
yeah, and how you feel about yourself, you start to interpret how you think people see you. And I don't know, I feel very lucky and thankful where I don't feel pressure or uncomfortable by the idea of like many eyes being on me. I'm just like, all right, well, people are watching. I might embarrass myself, but maybe that'll inspire you to be yourself.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, since you're talking about like how people perceive you and stuff, how was it for you when you were going to do like your first concert? Like, how did that feel, that feeling of like finally being in front of like a lot of people? How was that for you?
I used to get really nervous. The first show that I ever played, I'm trying to remember. I think it was at at a restaurant in Jersey or something like that. But my first like real performance, my first real performance in LA, it was at Black Rabbit Rose in Hollywood. And I remember seeing everyone's eyes, or just like their glare at me, or they had like the googly eyes for me. and I was like 18, and I was like, whoa, this is really cool, because they were all music industry people, or for the most part music industry people went to that show. And so I was like, wait, like people actually, they believe in me. They like what I do. It felt very surreal at first. I mean, it still feels surreal, but like I had a really hard time wrapping my head around it. And like, I think it took me a few years to really process that, what was happening around me.
That's cool.
Yeah, I was wondering, what was it like growing up in Jersey? What's New Jersey like? I've never been to the East Coast.
Yeah, we've never been. At least I haven't either.
I have to be careful about what I say, because I might get some backlash for my honesty, but it depends on where in Jersey you are in. I grew up very close to Manhattan, like 20 minutes away. I grew up in Bergen County. Suburbs, small town vibes. I grew up in this town called Little Ferry. And it was really boring, honestly. It was boring. I consider myself, I consider LA more my home now, because I've been here for so long, but I never really felt like I belonged in Jersey. Like I felt too different. And in LA, I feel normal. I felt like being an artist or being a creative out there was like this crazy thing. But out here is just like, you know, you're an artist, and there's so many other artists and creatives. It's just kind of like people are not really thrown off, or like they won't really think about you being a creative too much, or it'll just be like a normal thing. And I felt like at home I didn't really grow up with like a sense of community or people encouraging or inspiring one another. People are very cranky in Jersey.
Is it like Jersey Shore where everybody's like loud and like crazy?
Or is it more like The Sopranos?
Honestly, The Sopranos matches more
Yeah.
the real Jersey vibe. I grew up in a very unsupportive environment, so I always kind of isolated myself.
Is the area that you lived in, was it like a lot of Black and brown people, or how is it in the area that you lived? Because I know your mom's Dominican, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that like, were you in that around like, I guess that culture a lot, or was it not really that much?
Yeah, where I grew up was actually very diverse. There were lots of Latinos, and I grew up around a lot of Dominicans. So yeah, I mostly grew up with my Dominican side of the family. Didn't really grow up around Mexicans, but there were Mexicans in Jersey.
Yeah. That's cool.
What was, because you mentioned it earlier, what was the process of becoming self-taught with music? I mean, obviously it's probably extremely difficult, right? But were you searching for something and then you felt that music kind of was the avenue that provided what you were searching for? Or were you just always interested in music and you're like, I want to learn?
I was always interested in music, and I think looking back on it now, I feel like what influenced that was the toys that I would play with as a kid. They were like musical toys, like microphone or like a tiny little piano and stuff like that. And as I got older, I just always gravitated towards music. Like I said earlier, I was obsessed with pop culture. Like I would spend hours and hours on a computer just watching videos, interviews, absolutely anything that I could of my any content of my favorite artists. And actually what inspired me to learn how to play guitar was my obsession with One Direction.
Wow. I totally thought that's not who I thought you were gonna say. I thought it was gonna be like this like crazy artist like
Jimi Hendrix or something?
Yeah.
One Direction, Niall Horan. I was convinced that I was gonna marry that man, and at 11 I was like reading like One Direction fun facts. Niall Horan learned how to play the guitar at 11, and so I was like, oh my god, I'm 11. I was like, I have a good reason. This was my thought process. I was like, if I teach myself how to play guitar and I can play guitar, I will have something to talk about with Niall, because when I meet him, I could just go up to him and be like, hey, like, you learned guitar at 11, so did I.
Oh
Isn't
my
that
God.
so cool? But that was my motivation.
Wow.
And even though it was a superficial motive, I remember the first song that I learned how to play, it was a riff. It was is it Pumped Up Kicks or Pumped Up Kids?
Pumped Up
Pumped
Kicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned how to play the dun 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 dun. That was the first thing I ever learned how to play on guitar, and like I literally remember feeling like I was on drugs. Like it was like this euphoric moment. I was like, "Whoa, wait, this is crazy."
Yeah.
That's cool.
This is coming from me? Like, I'm
Yeah,
making this
right?
happen?
I
Yeah.
remember getting emotional. It's like after playing the riff, there was like a tear.
Like it was the most beautiful sound you've ever heard. Yeah, because me and Julie, we both learned instruments when we were
Yeah.
younger. I played guitar. I learned how to play guitar, and I remember like learning it. And mine was more like, rock. Like, oh my God, I want to be like a metal band guy.
Yeah.
And like I wasn't that good. I think my hands were too small. I think I was too young, and the guitar was like too big. But
Yeah.
I tried my best. But that's cool. I'm glad you did that though. Oh, what was the other instrument that you learned?
I learned how to play ukulele
Oh,
and
wow.
a little bit of piano as well.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Yeah, I learned it because I always just liked instrumental music, and I was always like, oh my God, I want to learn how to play. And then I mostly just learned how to play like Coldplay songs. That's it. That's all I learned.
We could have been a family band.
I
bro.
know.
We let it slip.
We
through
still
our fingers.
can.
Damn.
I was actually talking to someone, so they actually brought a piano at my job, and he was telling to me that he works with Kauai, I think it's called, and it's like a piano company. And he's like, oh, I've been working here he used to work for Yamava, I think, but then with the recession, he ended up working for this other company. And he was telling me about the piano, and he was just, and I was telling him, I was like, oh yeah, I learned when I was younger, but I was so frustrated with just like school, and like I have to go to classes, so I didn't like it. So I only lasted like a couple months. And then I was like, but I really want to learn again. And he's like, it's never too late. He's like, you can still learn. Like, it's never too late. And I was like, you know what? I still can. I was like, I'm going to try. So my next goal is that I'm for sure going to learn how to play the piano again.
Wow, there you go. You're manifesting it right now.
Yeah.
On record, literally being recorded.
So remember, throw it in the comments. Check up on me.
Yeah, keep her
Hold her accountable.
Yeah, hold her accountable, yeah. But going back a little bit, you said you didn't grow up around like a lot of Mexican Americans. As you gotten older, do you feel like that's something that you want to take on though, or are you comfortable with like the relationship that you've had?
Well, living in LA, I'm around a lot of Mexicans now, and I also try to go to Mexico 1 to a few times a year. So I feel a lot more connected to that side of my heritage than I ever did growing up. But I'm always interested in like learning more and becoming more familiar with my culture.
Would you say that music helped you connect with the culture?
Absolutely. Yeah, because of the music that I grew up hearing. My family played a lot of different Latin genres. And I feel like I always consciously as a kid tried to like shut out my culture, like being Dominican, being Mexican, because like I don't know, I was into like pop music, and for some reason I like tried to separate myself from that. I guess maybe because like I was first generation and just felt.
No, I get you. I totally get you.
Yeah.
Because I think for me, that's one thing that I've always struggled with is that like now that I've gotten older, I have tried to even more like dive into my culture. But when I was younger, I was like, I'm first generation too, but I'm the youngest. So I felt even more disconnected to like whatever my older siblings were. Like they spoke Spanish better than me. They were more like listening to like corridos or banda or whatever it was. And I think for me, I felt like I really enough didn't feel accepted in the culture, maybe subconsciously. And because of that, I also resented it. And I was like, okay, then I'm going to do my own thing. Yeah. And I'm going to listen to, because I listen to American music and I watch MTV or whatever, you know, like stuff like that. So it's totally reasonable. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You were saying? Yeah, you were saying.
But yeah, and then now looking back, like I'm glad that I had these songs or these genres of music like constantly playing in the background of my childhood, basically, because like now when I hear that music, it almost feels like I can time travel. When I hear the songs that I grew up listening to, it almost feels like, I don't know how to explain, it just takes me back and it gives me a sense of home. And it allows me to like reconnect spiritually to my identity, and just reminds me of where I came from and where my family came. Oh my God, where my family comes from.
Yeah. Did your families, were they hold like traditional really strongly, like were like, because we always talk about like Mexican traditions, and I'm sure there's some in Dominican. Did they raise you in that way, or were they very like liberal?
My mom was more liberal, but she was the one that was the most liberal. Everyone else was kind of a lot more traditional. But also, I don't want to say like everyone was traditional. I just, I'm gonna be honest about my perspective on my family and the people that I grew up around, because I grew up around. Honestly, I mostly did not grow up with my blood family. I grew up with my siblings' family and my mom. A lot of their perspective and philosophies just didn't really make sense. Like they weren't even like, I guess they were traditional, but they were like distorted, just like unreasonable. Like I grew up around a lot of like unreasonable perspectives, but I never allowed myself to almost like be brainwashed. Like, I don't know, for some reason it just never clicked. Like whenever somebody tried to convince me of something that didn't make sense to me, like child me would just be like, I don't understand, but like, okay, I'm just gonna let you yell at me because I'm powerless.
What specifically, if you're okay with sharing?
I don't know, lots of random stuff, like being told, like, I don't know, if someone offered me candy and I took like 3 pieces, they were like, no, you never take 3. You always take 2. Like what? And then also like having LGBTQ friends growing up, like I was told, I had a friend that identified as gay, and he was my stepdad at the time, would be like, I don't want him to be around my son because he's gonna mess up my son's development. And I was like, you're gonna mess up your son's development.
That's pretty good. Yeah. No, you're right though. Yeah.
And just like, I don't know, stuff like that didn't really make sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I was wondering the way you're making it sound. I was thinking like it was. I mean, that's insane too. But I was also thinking like, I don't know, like they believe like aliens were real, and then like you should always like leave the light on and so you don't get abducted. Like I was thinking like stuff like that. I don't know why. I guess maybe I have this warped perception of Jersey because I've never been there. Like, the people in Jersey, all I think about is Jersey Shore, and then I have a cousin who's from there, and he's kind of like. He's interesting. So I was thinking that. Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. So I know you've mentioned like your whole family and stuff. So I know I watched a documentary that you had, and for sure in that video, your mom seems very supportive of you and your music. But in the video, you talk a lot about your dad and like immigration and stuff. At first, I wanted to ask, why did you call it "Llegaron las Flores"?
Because of the song "A Letter to My Younger Self," and I say the universe is gonna give you muchas flores, and the documentary. I have a lot of mixed feelings about that documentary actually, but "Llegaron las Flores" was supposed to symbolize like all the things that in that song I was envisioning, like all the blessings that I wanted, had come to me.
So do you? And since then, I think the documentary was like 4 years ago. Do you still have like a good relationship with your dad and like traveling back here and back to Mexico and stuff?
I don't have a bad relationship with him, but I have a complicated relationship with both of my parents. Just because I mean, they were really young when they had me, and so they made lots of mistakes. But I think part of the consequences of that is me lacking emotional intimacy with both of my parents. So my dad, he reaches out to me, and he does make an effort to connect with me, but I don't know, for some reason in my reality, in my head, like I don't have parents. I don't know how to explain. Like whenever my parents try to parent me, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, that's disrespectful. Don't try to parent me. Even though they're literally my parents. I don't know how to explain. Like, it's just like, there's this disconnect. And I think it's just because my perspective and my experience in life is so different than theirs. A part of me doesn't even like want to explain that or help them understand. I'm just like, if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, sorry, babes.
So you feel like they...
I understand, because you feel like they lost that privilege, right, to kind of have that relationship, or I don't know. I don't mean to speak for you, but...
That's okay.
Yeah, that's what it's some people that I'm friends with, that's what they say, because they have similar relationships too.
I think what it is just that they failed at creating emotional intimacy during a crucial development time as like children or babies. I feel like the first few years of our lives are very, very crucial towards the kind of people that we become and the personalities that we shape and the way that we love people. So if I would say for the most part, if a child feels that way about their parent, then the parent didn't show up during a time in their life where they really needed to.
Yeah. And are your parents like self-aware, or are they completely oblivious to that?
I think my dad is aware because I've spoken to him about it. My mom, it's like in and out. Sometimes she's receptive to that kind of stuff. Other times, her own projections kind of get in the way of her understanding my experience. But they're not as self-aware as I wish they were.
Okay.
But I still love them.
Deep down, you still feel it.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like, they're your parents, and sometimes it's hard to, I guess, be a little, I mean, you are mad at them, but it's like to hold that, because it's like they're your parents, and you hold them into like some sort of respect, so I for sure like get that of like, it's hard to navigate those relationships and there's times when they haven't been there when you were younger, you like hold those, you still like consciously hold those things
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
sure.
I definitely do. I definitely have resentment towards my parents. But I also know that it's like not their fault that they ended up living the life that they did. They just didn't know any better.
So you said you're first generation, so they also immigrated here,
Mhm.
like, and so how did they meet? How did they meet? Like, because they're from different cultures, so that's really interesting.
Super romantic. They met at a factory.
Oh
Uh,
wow, it's like a movie.
It's actually kind of a sad story,
Ooh.
just because of how my mom ended up at the factory. Like she studied fashion in
Oh,
Dominican
wow.
Republic, and then she moved to the U.S. 'Cause she wanted to be here. And she was spending time in New York, and she like was about to get an internship or a job opportunity in fashion with like this designer, and her uncle was like, no, being in the city's too dangerous. You're gonna work at this factory instead. And yeah, so she stopped pursuing her fashion stuff and went to work at a factory and met my dad there and ended up having a baby.
Oh wow. Do you how do they feel about your music career taking off?
They're both very supportive about
Oh,
it.
that's good then. Yeah, because I mean, in a way, I think parents live through their kids.
Mhm.
So even though your mom may not have been like the fashion designer that she wanted to be or whatever she wanted to pursue, I feel like to see you win to that degree that you're winning at, I'm sure it does something for her, even if it's subconsciously. Because I mean that's what I think about is like let's say all my hopes and dreams that I have right now don't come true. Like if I mean that's also a lot of pressure to put on a kid, and I'm not putting the pressure
Yeah.
on them. But if they were to succeed and have their dreams and wishes come true, even if they don't align with what I wanted, I feel like that's a win either way. Like I feel like I feel that success because I feel their happiness. So I mean that's the least good ending to her. To well, not ending, but a good part of her story is that then you came along. So and it's just something I guess of encouragement because that's my immediate thought. One thing I did want to bring up and ask you about was because it is 420, so I thought it was
Mhm.
so fitting. When I was doing research on you, I saw your Tales from the Trip clip from Comedy Central. First, I want to know how did that happen? Like, how did that come along that you like came on the show? But second thing, I was like, what's your relationship with shrooms, and what do you think about psychedelic recreational drugs?
I don't remember exactly how the Comedy Central thing ended up happening. I think they reached out to me.
Mm-hmm.
That was a few years ago. I think they reached out to my team and then like we made it happen, but I'm not 100% sure. In terms of how I feel about psychedelics, I think it's complicated because I definitely see the value in them and how productive they can be to some people, but I also do think that people are very reckless with them and they don't realize the risk that a lot of people take when they carelessly abuse psychedelics. Like I always tell my friends, I try to discourage my friends from doing acid specifically. I'm like, when you take acid, just because you don't really know what the chemical that you're putting in your body is, like how much LSD today is actually LSD. I feel like it's like playing a psychological Russian roulette. And I wish that people knew that the things that they seek in psychedelics, they can find through other practices like meditation or journaling or like introspection or working out or life is trippy. Like you don't need drugs to experience the psychedelic aspect of reality. However, I have had many positive and negative experiences with shrooms, and I've made a lot of inner progress with shrooms. I try not to do it as much anymore because I take Wellbutrin, and apparently it's bad to mix those two. Didn't realize that until
It was too late.
Don't want to fry my brain, but I would do shrooms more if I wasn't taking Wellbutrin. But I think shrooms can be a very useful tool, but I think people should view doing psychedelics as like a sacred practice.
No, I 100% agree. Yeah, because I don't know. It's weird. I mean, we kind of talked about this before, like as a group, and we've experimented with psychedelics, mainly shrooms. Like, no, I've never. I don't know why I said psychedelics, like more than one, because I've only ever done shrooms. But I feel like it's definitely something I don't understand doing it recreationally. Like if I'm gonna go to a party or something,
Right.
like taking them, because I feel like they're so introspective. And if you have like this like ugliness is the wrong word, but if you have this battle that's going on inside of you and you take them, I feel like you're not gonna have fun, first of
Yeah.
all, and second of all, like you said, the repercussions of that could be insane.
Yeah.
Because people can get into psychosis, people can be act irrationally, hurt themselves physically, hurt
Yeah.
other people. And I'm interested if you care with sharing. What are some positive and negative stories of when you did take psychedelic mushrooms?
I think it took a few tries to really be able to enjoy mushrooms because I had a lot of trauma when I first started doing mushrooms that I had not processed or even recognized as trauma. I just knew that I had this intense feeling of heaviness within me, and it would amplify whenever I would do shrooms. And for some reason, I like continued to do shrooms regardless of like me tapping into this like dark energy. And I don't know, I kind of just, I don't know if it's like as I tripped more, I was just like, maybe doing inner work that helped me evolve mentally. But I would say it was like gradual. I would say between my first like 10 to 20 trips, it was all like taking little steps forward, or at least like my lens of perception becoming clearer and me realizing that I needed help, because that intense feeling of heaviness, I realized that it was not normal and that I didn't have to live with that. And the only time that I did see outside of that dark cloud that I was carrying in me was when I did shrooms. I cry so much when I do shrooms, like so much. Like even if I'm vibing now, like I have a lot more fun with shrooms now because I've done a lot of inner work. So things that pop up within me are not a surprise. Like, but I still cry. Like I could be having the time of my life, like being with like my friends and like I'll just like look at them and I'm like, oh my God, we're alive, guys. This is so beautiful.
Yeah, I have a friend who he did that. He was like, we were tripping and he's like, we're all just little bunnies like living on a farm. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And he started crying like tears of joy. He was like, wow. And I get I tear up, but I yawn. Like it's because I just can't stop yawning.
I yawn a lot too.
Yeah.
I wonder
Yeah.
what that's about.
I think it's like your nervous system is like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
So you're stressed. So I think it's to like make your eyes tear so you relieve some stress. So that's what I think. I hate the like feeling of like I feel like something is gonna happen, but I don't know what. Like like the come up, like
on an edge.
Yeah,
of?
like I'm just like I know it's coming. Like I just can't feel it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, but when you were mentioning the whole thing about like people do it at parties, I tried it once at a rave because my friends were like, "Oh, we should do it. We should try it." And
How
I was
was
like,
that?
he actually that time though he made it into a tea. So like he does like shroom tea basically, and he told me to like drink it, and then there was still like this big like chunk of the shroom in there, and he's like, "Eat it and you'll be fine." But something in me was like, I do not want to eat it. I was like, I'm going to drink it, but I won't eat it. Because I knew I was going to trip even more. And, like, before that, we had done it at least once before that. I had, like, a semi-bad good trip that time, but it was because it was my first time. And when we were there, it hit me when we were in line to, like, we were at Will Call because one of our friends had to pick up their ticket. And I just remember I started seeing, like, the grass was, like, moving. And it started, like, low-key freaking me out because I was like, oh, my God. Like, I had done it before, right? And I had seen, like, the flowers and everything move. But this time, like, it was moving. And that's when I was like, oh, God, like, I think it's hitting me right now. And I'm in line. Like, I'm not even in the festival. I'm in the line.
Damn.
And then there was a guy who had, like, different pattern, like a shirt. And just kept looking at it. And I was like, fuck, like, I'm tripping out right now. And then I got in there, and by the time I got in there, like I would see the lights, but it wasn't like I think it was so like, you know how it's very like inner stuff. Like I started having that, so I wasn't really like enjoying the rave as much. It was just me having like inner thoughts of like, where am I? I'm starting to see shit. Like shit is moving, and I don't know. That's why to me, I was kind of like, it was not it. Like for me, it wasn't a thing like that I could just do like.
It wasn't like
at a party.
Yeah, it wasn't like let's party. It's more like, why am I at this party?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, basically, because I was like, I was just more focused on like me, I guess, feeling it than actually like enjoying the feeling while I'm at somewhere. It was just me more just like overthinking again, like all those things. So I was just like, no, I would never do this at like a party again. And I don't know if it was because it was a tea, but I know the come up has always just been really bad for me, where I just get tummy aches.
Yeah. That's interesting because I'm curious as to like, I mean, I guess I understand the thought process of like, okay, I'm at like a rave or like a party or whatever. I guess maybe if like the people you're seeing perform make you think introspectively, like, you know how people go to like concerts to cry and like, you know, like, oh man, I remember like they left me and whatever, and if they take it there. But I don't know. I'm curious because I've never really heard anybody say they've had like a terrific time. So I'm like, what's the motivation? Like, cause I guess maybe cause like the pretty colors or whatever, but
maybe.
Yeah.
I think microdosing is the move if you're trying to do it recreationally, because that's what's worked for me. I try not to do it when I go out in public, but sometimes it's just like, you know, someone will have a little bit of shrooms. They'll be like, want some? And I'm like, okay. But yeah, I've usually enjoyed it the most when it's like the littlest amount possible. There have been times where I've been like tripping balls at a concert. Awful. I don't know how people do it. But I mean, please, people who do that, what's your secret? How do you find that strength to be able to like contain yourself? Because I feel like you feel so odd when you're tripping. Yeah. Like you're just like.
I just feel so authentic. Like I feel like, I don't know, guys. Like maybe everything will be okay. But I remember one time the specific, I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the show. Maybe we've alluded to it for sure a lot of times, but this one specific time, we all thought we were microdosing. We did. Have you seen that they have the Shroom bars, like the chocolate bars? We all thought we were microdosing. We weren't gonna feel it like that much. Like, we'll feel it like a little bit. We ended up tripping balls like crazy.
Was the floor moving?
Everything was moving.
Everything was alive.
Yeah. What was funny is we did it as a group. It was the three of us here and then some of our friends. And we went on a hike. I don't know if you've ever been in Eden Canyon here in LA.
I think so.
Yeah, there's like these rivers you cross and like it's like a 2-hour hike. And we were gonna lead to the waterfall, and I just remember and Brandon like sprinted off. Like he wasn't running, but you were going straight. And then do you remember? I remember I was like, but we're chilling. Like we're all just having fun. Like we're feeling it, but we're fine. And then there was this guy there, like who was just playing guitar and like humming. And then and I swear, like that's when I knew this shit was about to be off the fucking rails. Cause he was tripping us out. It's like he knew. It's like he was saying like, "Welcome to the trip." Yeah. So it was super bizarre because it felt like I did shrooms like against my will because I didn't mean to do that much. Yeah. So it was like an internal battle. But I mean, we handled it like champs, right?
Yeah. We came out alive.
Yeah,
we came out stronger.
We did.
Now, so.
We did.
Yeah, we're here now. Yeah. Do you guys feel like a definite before and after you guys experimented with shrooms? Would you say so?
Like, you mean like a difference? Yeah.
Do you feel like you were a different person before you ever took them as opposed to after?
Absolutely.
Right?
I feel like it's always like a reset, like a spiritual reset. Yeah. And the things that don't really matter kind of like fade away for a little bit. I love the afterglow of shrooms. It's like when you feel uplifted.
Yeah. I remember the first time we did it. This was, I think, it was like somewhere in November, like
of 2020
or something. Yeah. And so, pandemic time. But we were all like, let's go hike. And then we went to go hiking like at the Griffith Park.
Yeah.
And my brother had told me about it because he did it first. And he was like, bro, it was so cool. Like it was so colorful and all these things. And I was like, you know what? Like I'm intrigued. And so we were gonna go hiking, and I think you had said that it was good to go like in nature and do them. So that's why we went on a hike, and I was like, yeah, like I'm down to do them. And so we went, and before that, like I was on Twitter, and I had seen somebody like just happen to tweet about shrooms, and they were like, oh, like if you ever take shrooms, like they said you can never have a bad trip on shrooms because shrooms shows you what you've been like putting in the back of your mind, basically. So nothing's ever bad. It's just more to like help you with like that realization and kind of like making you not feel better about it, but just like releasing that. And I read about it and I was like, that's really interesting. And so I kind of went with that thought. And the other thought is that, again, I go to raves, so I've done other things. And so I was like, you know what? Like, I'll be fine. Like, this is like I guess a kind of natural thing, it's right?
An appetizer.
So to me, I was just like, okay, like I'm going in, I'm going to do this for sure. And we did it, and I started just like tripping like really bad, but that's because like I started getting like a tummy ache and I felt like really dizzy. And I was like, man, like I'm tripping really hard, and like I was just like, I don't feel like I'm not having fun. And like everything kind of looked like they were like skulls and like snakes and like all these things.
And then I started freaking you out too, right?
Yeah, because he was energetic. Like he was energetic. Like he was just like, oh my god. Like he started looking at his hands, and
I don't know what it was.
He just had so much energy, and that was like making me trip out even more. I was like, bro, like there's like, too much.
Like, yeah, everything's beautiful.
Yeah, and I was like, bro, chill. I was like, you're making me sick right now. And I told him, and I felt bad after I said that because
you almost tripped me out. Because then when she told me that, I don't know why I took it. I guess because the shrooms made you. I took it so personally. I was like, damn, maybe I just do too much. Like,
yeah, and I could feel that he felt that way, and I felt bad. And so after that, I was kind of like, I was trying to feel a little bit better. And then we sat like on these benches, and I told him, and I was like, no, I'm not doing well, bro. And he kept talking to me, and like he just kept like talking to me and talking to me and kind of like distracting me. And I just remember there was a trash can like right over there. And I was like, I could legit just yak right now and this could be over. I was like, I'm like, no. I was like, I've done little things. I said I was going to do this, and I'm going to do this.
But she's a thug, strong, independent woman.
I legit was sitting there like this, like with like my hand like this. I was like, yeah. And I was like, no, I can do this. I've done other things. I can do this. Like, I'll be fine. And then as soon as I like said that to myself, they like started like cracking jokes and all these things. And I kept looking at Brandon, and Brandon looked like a cat to me.
Yeah, this guy. Yeah, transformed.
And looking at it, first his face would trip me out, but then eventually, like, it just got me like comfortable. And like I kept looking at him too, cause Stevie was sitting next to me, and I just kept looking at things, and then I would look at our other friend, and he didn't do anything, but he just looked like normal, which helped me kind of like stable, also ground myself, where I was like, okay, like I know I'm tripping, like I know I'm seeing shit, and it's okay. And then once they started making me laugh and all these things, I started feeling a lot better. And then on the way back, I just remember I felt like this weight had like lifted off of me. Like I felt like how you said, like it was like a restart to like I don't know if it was like my spirit or something. We were also talking about like Mac Miller at the time. We were just being so R. positive the whole time. And I just remember I just felt like, especially after, you know, like the pandemic and everything that was happening, especially in 2020. And it was such a hard time, I think, for me, because I had just gotten back from college. So I was having kind of like this, like, they call it like post-grad depression. And also at the same time, like the pandemic just kind of depressed me of like not being able to see my friends and all those things that like I was really going through it. And so that time when we did it, I just felt like a lot more positive. Like I felt like a lot more, like how I said, like something off of me just got like lifted. And I felt like I always see that beginning part as that part of like me fighting myself, of like having that bad trip and kind of like all the thoughts that I was going through, and I kind of just released them after. Which is why I think I laugh a lot, especially when I'm on shrooms, because I'm like, I think I just take that. And then the second time that I did it, I had the time of my life. I had so much fun. Remember. I was just like, I remember I was laying down. We went to, again.
We switched, bro.
Yeah, we
switched.
The
second time, I was not having a good time.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I just remember I was playing music, because I think music really, like, mellows me out, too. And so I remember there was a song playing, and I laid down on the bench, and I just kept looking at like the rays of the sun coming through the trees, and I just remember I just started going like this, and then there was a lot of leaves on the ground, and I just felt like they were singing to me, and I was like, wow, I'm having the time of my life right now.
If I know that if I ever want to have a good trip, I gotta bring this guy along, because this guy really like, I don't know what it is. He has a calming presence. Because that first time we took it, it was so funny too. Because literally had told my sister, I was like, Julie, like, just let's do the shrooms, and she's like, okay. And then I told this guy like the day of, or like 6 hours before, and he's like, he was like, I guess this is what we're doing today. So I was like, okay. And it was funny because I was looking at his face, and I swear to you, one time I was looking at your face, and you were talking to me, and one of your eyes was here, and then one of them was like all the way down here. But I was just more of like, wow, like, you're so beautiful right now.
Thank you.
The lopsided eyes.
I was like
art.
I never knew that.
That's what I was thinking, like a painting.
Like Picasso. Literally, that's what it felt like. Yeah, the second time, I remember I saw an evil version of myself. But
whoa.
Yeah, it's a story for a different time. Yeah. I don't know. Have you ever tripped out that belly where, like, you've had, like, what's the most negative experience you've had? Was it, like, anything that you saw, like an illusion?
Yes. But this was honestly one of the weirdest psychedelic experiences I've ever had. So this was when I was really young. I was like 16, and I wanted to do acid, and so I did it, but I didn't feel anything. So then I did it again the next day, didn't feel anything again. But then the third day, I didn't do it a third day. but the third day after the 2 days in a row of me doing acid, I was just like, oh, whatever. I guess like acid just doesn't work for me.
I guess I'm too cool.
Strong. Too mentally strong. I had come home from work. I used to work at a pharmacy, and this was when I first bought a dab pen. I had a routine. I would go to work. I would go to school, go to work, come home, rip the fuck out of my pen. And this time I was in the shower, ripped the pen, and I ripped it so hard I was just like coughing, and I had music playing, and I don't know how to explain, like it felt like all the different sounds like detached, like I could hear them all individually, rather than like as a unit. Yeah. And I was like, hold up, this sounds really good, but like too good. 'Cause it literally felt like somebody was tickling my brain, and then like I just started getting this like weird sensation all over my body, and I was like, oh, I'm high, but I'm tripping. I was like, I think this is tripping, because I had not really tripped. That's why I was doing acid twice in a row, because I didn't really know about it. I just knew that I wanted to experience whatever I had envisioned a trip was. But I knew that something was wrong, because I was in the bathroom, and then like I saw the walls breathing. That was the first time I ever had visuals like that. Yep. And I was like, why is the wall moving like that? Why does the music sound so good? I thought I was going crazy. And then I think I was having like a little bit of like a psychosis moment. And it like, I didn't physically see anything, but it was like I was witnessing two different parts of reality. There was like the physical realm, and then there was like whatever was going on energetically. And for some reason, I had convinced myself that the devil was in the bathroom with me, and that he was circling around me. And
hell no.
Yeah. And there was a point where it felt like the devil was like right in front of me and like staring at me in the eyes. Looking back on it now, I don't believe in the devil. I think the devil is probably one of the biggest projections of all time. It's just humanity.
No, they've had a lot of crimes against the world.
Yeah, humans are just capable of awful things, and instead of us being real about it and acknowledging it, we make up a creature, and we're like, he's bad. Not us though.
I get what you mean. Yeah, I get what you mean. I agree.
So I view this memory differently. I think that I was just maybe becoming aware. I think I was integrating with my subconscious, and like whatever this devil was, I think it was just like a feeling within me that I did not have the mental capacity at the time to really understand or perceive for what it truly was. But at the time, I thought that I was in the bathroom with the devil, and I was like, I'm going crazy. What the hell just happened? I couldn't even like walk. Like I literally had to like, I'm not even joking, I had to get out of the bathroom and crawl to my bedroom. I don't know how to explain what I was feeling, but I just knew that it wasn't normal and it wasn't my usual weed high. And the day after, I messaged my manager at the time, and I was like, I think I lost my mind. Like, I just experienced the craziest thing. And he told me that apparently, like, when you do acid, it can get, like, stored in like, your spinal fluid or something
Supposedly,
like
yeah,
that.
I've heard,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that's what happened. I guess, like, when I coughed so hard that, like, I induced an LSD trip from hitting my dab pen.
Damn.
I used
crazy.
to always be scared of that whenever I remember around the times that I take shrooms, and then sometimes I would smoke weed like immediately after. Well, not immediately, but maybe a few days after. I'd be like, oh my God, I think I just activated the shrooms. Like, fuck, I don't feel like tripping right now. Like, I'm gonna freak out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I think that the neuroreceptors, like in your brain, are very similar. So I can imagine if you hit that shit hard as fuck, it'll for sure activate the acid, especially if you didn't feel anything.
Yeah,
Would you ever take ayahuasca or DMT?
definitely.
Why?
Well, DMT because I'm curious to. I feel like I'm gonna sound crazy.
It's hyped up. They say it's the craziest shit, so I'm always like, let me see
Right.
for myself.
Yeah, I mean, I consider myself a mystic, so I believe that there's different dimensions to this reality, and I think DMT is a door to those realities. So I would love to check out those realities and see what's up, see what the hype is all about. And then ayahuasca, I would do more so with a healing intention. I would hope that it would help me overcome my childhood trauma and like my addiction. I'm a weed addict.
That's controversial, especially to say on 420. A lot of people don't think you get addicted to weed.
Well, I'm gonna be so real. It is 420. I love weed, but I am addicted to it.
Wow.
I commend you for saying that because a lot of people won't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do a
A lot
lot of
of-
mental gymnastics. To be like,
I'm
I just can't I can't start my day without it. I can't eat without it. I can't listen to music without it. But I'm not addicted.
Yeah, I could quit
They're
anytime.
like, I can't sleep. No, what is it? I'm not addicted to it. I'm addicted to the high or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Oh my God.
I believe them. I feel like I can see it. I'm a
What?
sympathizer. I believe you
You're
guys.
like, and what?
guess.
So yeah.
You know what sucked when I was younger? I did this thing. I've seen it more on TikTok, like with the younger generation. I mean, we're the same generation. I just feel old now. But I've seen it with people younger than me that they're like, oh, I can't like. It's so bad when I hit the pen. Like I have to hit it before I eat, or else my food doesn't taste good, or I don't have an appetite. Have you ever experienced that? 'Cause
Yes, unfortunately.
yeah, same.
Yeah.
That actually happened to me, and then that's when I was like, okay, I gotta take a break.
Yeah.
It's the pen. The pen's just too accessible. Like
Yeah.
you can just whip it out.
The pen is what made me an addict.
Yeah, you think
Yeah.
so? I mean, it makes sense because it's just like it's literally like a pencil. You just take it out. You just bring it everywhere you can. You can sneak it into anywhere. It's made out of plastic.
Right.
Yeah.
I think everything you guys are saying, I completely agree. But my conspiracy, like tinfoil hat thing, is that I think the pen companies are adding something extra in
Oh,
to like
absolutely.
keep you coming back. That
To like
One-
make you addicted to
so
it?
yeah, for sure. Because they did that with cigarettes.
Yeah.
They're already addictive, but I forgot what. But they would add something to where like the content was barely even nicotine at that point.
Yeah, I know what you're
And
talking
so
about.
I
yeah.
think they're doing that with pens, where it's like it checks off the box of what weed is supposed to do with you,
Yeah.
but it's not actually weed. It's something much cheaper and much more addictive.
Yeah.
But maybe in like 2070 when they do the commercials, like
I think you're onto
you can sue.
something.
Thank
I
you,
really
thank
do
you.
think
Yeah.
you're onto something.
It
Yeah.
just reminds me of just like kind of anything of
Yeah.
like how there's always kind of like those conspiracies, even with like water, right? Or
All
like,
right.
It's true. I've seen that people are like
They
they
put
put something in the water to make you addicted.
They do say that though.
Fluoride.
People in
Yeah.
what do you call it?
well, to make you thirsty. Like,
no, I've seen
I
people
guess.
in the UK say that the water in America tastes heavy and it's not
Heavy?
good. Yeah, like heavy, like
it has like stuff inside.
no, like it. I don't know. Like they just say heavy because I've never been to Europe and
Yeah.
I never drank their water. But they say like when you drink water in Europe, it's like what water is supposed to be like. So it's like
light.
lights. It's like it's refreshing, but the water here is like thick and
Yeah.
muddy. But I don't know.
I feel like especially with I like speaking on the
Yeah.
whole weed industry, I think because of just the market and how it's like booming a lot now, that I feel like for sure I can believe that
Yeah.
there's something in there that's making them want you to buy it more, because it's
Yeah.
a lot more accessible. I mean, there's a
Uh-huh.
lot more dispensaries than there was before,
Yeah.
and
And it's illegal on a federal level, so why wouldn't they? Because
Yeah.
they can get away with it. The government's not like
keeping
looking
an
at-
eye, keeping
Yeah.
an eye on it or regulating it or
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Amber, do you believe in any conspiracy theories?
Yes. I mean, I don't know if I believe many of the, like, what's it called? What's the word?
Mainstream?
Yes. I don't know if I believe a lot of the mainstream conspiracy theories, but I be theorizing myself.
Spit one out. Let me see.
This is actually crazy. So recently, this isn't really like a conspiracy theory. It's just like a theory that I started working on recently. I was high and tipsy, and
Always the best. The best thoughts come when that happens.
I love being crossed. But I was at a session, and I'm studying psychology, and I'm also very into like spirituality. I consider myself a mystic, and I just got this like message or download from the universe. And I recently decided that my path as an artist isn't just to be an artist. It's also to be like part of my legacy is to become a respected and well-known philosopher and psychologist. So I've been writing about that a lot and reflecting on that. And anytime that we learn about theories in class, I get very inspired by the people who come up with these theories, because some people like theories are literally just like people make things up based on the research that they do. And so I recently came to terms with the fact that one of my jobs in this life is to write a theory on different parts of the brain and how different parts of the brain are able to perceive different dimensions of reality. Like, for example, let's say, I'm probably saying this so wrong, but like the occipital lobe, basically it's responsible for like our vision. Like, let's say that part of our brain only perceives what the human experience is. And then like our frontal lobe is able to perceive things beyond the human experience. That's just like, I have a starting point, and right now I'm working on that theory, and I think it's part of my destiny to spend, I would say like the next few years. I'm giving myself a 4-year timeline to work on this theory and to write a book on how, where spirituality and biopsych go hand in hand. Yeah, that's what
That's
I'm
very interesting.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. There you go. Yeah.
So you're saying like the theory that you're kind of working on, right, is the occipital lobe? Occipital lobe? Is
Not
that
just
what you said?
that's just like one of the parts of the brain, but I want to do research to maybe come up with an explanation on what different parts of the brain, like what stimuli it's able to take in from different dimensions of reality.
That's really interesting, because I saw not that long ago, maybe like a couple weeks ago, where this recent study had come out about schizophrenia and how it's never been documented in blind people. Schizophrenia, has
interesting.
never been documented in blind people.
Whoa.
And everybody
is
was
crazy.
theorizing what that meant, and the proposed theory was perhaps something to do with schizophrenia is heavily influenced by the part of your brain that is with sight. So I think it's really interesting that you bring that up.
That is crazy.
That the part of your
Wow.
brain that brings up sight could influence your perception on reality. So
Yeah,
I'm sure you'll do
You
it.
got to get
Yeah.
on it. They're
Yeah.
beating you to it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look into that. That sounds really interesting. Damn, thanks for.
Hey, she said it on here, so nobody
Yeah.
steal that.
Trademark,
Copyright.
trademark.
I came up with the name of the theory, even though I just started the idea. But I think this is whatever book I end up writing will be called. The theory of the multidimensional human experience, where the physical meets the non-physical.
Oh, okay. I like that. Where the physical meets the non-physical. I like that. I'd buy it. I'll read it.
I look forward to reading
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I look forward
I'll
to
buy
reading it. Yeah.
Kind of like speaking on like names, I was gonna ask you about your name. So I know it's Amber Lucid, but your original name is Amber, of course. Where did you get the whole Lucid part?
So this is how I personally believe that time is non-linear, and I think me choosing my name is proof of that, just because I did such a good job at choosing a name that's on brand for me. But growing up, I knew that Ambar Cruz was too Latina sounding. I was like, if I make music, if I'm trying to make like psychedelic trip music, like the last name Cruz is gonna take away from my artistry. Or at least like at the time, like, you know, Latin music was not as popular and mainstream as it is now in the US. So I was like, I need something that's a little bit more less ethnic. Not because I'm ashamed of my ethnicity or anything, but it was just like a strategic move. Move. Because, you know, unfortunately, whether or not we like to admit it, people have biases, and I wanted to reduce the amount of biases that my art would receive. So I was like, what do I stand for? Like, what's my goal? Like, at 16 years old, I was thinking about this. Actually, I might have been even like 15. Like, what's my goal? What's my message? What is it that I'm going to preach about? What am I going to write about? And thankfully, I've always been very intrigued by spirituality in the non-physical realm and God, the universe, the divine, divinity, all that stuff. And so the name just came to me. I was like, Ambar Lucid, because I want to teach people how to live life lucidly. And I was also inspired by like lucid dreams, even though I have not lucid dreamt, I don't know if that's a word, much in my life, maybe a few times, but I was inspired by the concept of it, of like, you know, being in a different reality basically, and being aware that you're in a different reality. And I wanted to, very early on, I decided that my message as an artist would be to just remind people that they are living an experience where they're conscious and their choices matter. Like, I think from the very beginning, I've always known that that's kind of like my niche, is talking about and being inspired by the things that are not really easy to explain, or the aspects of reality that we don't understand.
Wow.
And then because you also have another name, right? Is it Estrella? Or
Yes, that's my alter ego.
Okay. So that's like a whole different thing that you're doing.
It's just kind of a name. It was more, I came up with that alter ego for like a spiritual rebirth, because I started doing music for so young. I had created a reputation for myself as an artist and as a public figure as a teenager, and by the time that I came up with Estrella, I think I was like 20 or 21, and I was like, all right, I need to come up with something that's more adult like, or I just wanted to present myself in a way that wasn't like my teenage self.
Okay.
You know what I find interesting, what you said about that keeping your last name would be too distracting. I think it kind of hit close to home, because in two aspects. One, in the what we chose to like name ourselves, like TODO CHIDO, that's literally a combo we had. Like, would choosing to name ourselves in Spanish like take away from what like our content is? Because obviously, who you are and who we are as a person, we are more than just like our heritage, and obviously we're proud of it, but we're more than that.
Right.
So I totally get you. Like, I don't think that's anything that you should get any flack for, because I think that the way that American media and American people work is that there's a system in place,
Right.
and in order to climb the ladder, you have to play by the game that is the system, you know? Because for me, my last name is Martinez, and I always just thought, for some reason, when I would grow up, that I would like change it. Not because I said I'm ashamed, same thing as you, of like that part of my history and who I am, but more because I felt like it was almost like a distraction of like who I am as a person, whether I was gonna, you know, chase a dream in the entertainment world, or chase a job in a different career field. I always just thought that like people would look at my last name and they would be like, oh, this guy, like, they already have these preconceived conceptions about what I am. Like, they have these ideas. So I just think that really hit close to home, because I totally get it. Like, and I get how people can get flack for it, because it does seem controversial to say like, oh, I'm gonna change my name because it's not gonna work. But I think that unfortunately we're born into a system where we have to learn the rules and then play by that book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I totally get it.
Definitely. I've been learning about that in one of my classes, my interpersonal communication class. And people's perception of you being altered literally just based on your name.
Yeah.
It's a very real thing. I mean, like I was saying before, lots of people have many different biases. Like literally absolutely every aspect of us alters people's perceptions based on whatever stereotypes they have within them or stereotypes that they've learned throughout their life. And I feel like a lot of the times, sometimes, especially younger people, or just like people in general, they'll like deny that aspect of reality. But I that's something that I never want to forget about. Like I don't want to live my life being like, oh, like I'm a minority, so things are more difficult for me. But I do have to constantly remind myself I am not the majority, therefore my experience is altered, or like I have to deal with these prejudices and biases that people will have against me. And I've become more aware of it now because, you know, I'm learning about these things in school and why people think the way that they do. But I think it is important for people in the U.S. to just keep that in the back of your mind. Like, if you're a minority, people's perception of you is being affected by that, and it doesn't have to like be an awful, terrible thing. But it's important to acknowledge that truth and be like, okay, it is what it is. How do I work around it?
Yeah, I agree. It makes me think of two forms of media. The first one is Shrek. Do you remember do you remember in Shrek when he's all sad and he's like, they hate me before they even get to know me?
Oh, when he's talking about that.
And then the second one was I was watching because O.J. Simpson passed away recently, and I was rewatching O.J. versus the People. And there's a scene in it. His lawyer Johnny Cochran. They're with the opposite lawyers are like, oh, they introduced race into this what is it, lawsuit? Into this battle. And then Johnny Cochran is like, well, excuse you, we didn't introduce that into this. This is just a part of what the culture is in America. That's just what it is. And I think it relates to what you're saying is like, if you're somebody who's a minority, obviously you don't want to go through life and be like, oh, I'm at a disadvantage, you know, I'm a victim, all these aspects are against me, but it's your reality. Yeah. Like, that's just what it is. You could ignore it all day, but it's there. And I think that's another like aspect of it that's super important, is that like we don't introduce or make up these prejudices to like make us seem like an underdog. That's just the reality of the state that we're living in. Yeah. So I think what you just said is just like very profound. Very profound.
I think it's really hard to get yourself also out of those thoughts of kind of having that blame on yourself. Well, not blame, but just kind of having that thing of like knowing that there's some sort of thing that is people still perceive you as because of who you are. I get you, yeah. Like it's hard you yourself to get out of that, especially when you're in areas or places where like you can't really escape it sometimes, you know? And I think that's like another big thing for sure. But I think it is also keeping that in mind of like, you know, like hearing stories or like even hearing like different things of like you're not by yourself in those things, you know, like you have people who are very supportive of you, you know, and I feel like that's something to always keep in mind. It's for sure hard. Like it's for sure hard to kind of get those like prejudice and those things out of yourself, especially when I feel like more me speaking on being like Mexican American of like having it come from both sides where it's like, for America, like you're Mexican, so you're like not seen in that perspective. But then for like Mexicans, it's like you're not from Mexico, so how can you kind of have that identity and like know that struggle when you're not really a part of it? You were born in America, right? And I feel like for me, I've had that internal where it's like I know in both perspectives and both like having traditional, you know, ways of things that like it's hard to kind of like get out of that of like I'm kind of struggling in this because I have no support in both sides.
Like you're more than the stereotypes.
Yeah.
I'm more than whatever the mainstream audience, media people think that I am. I'm more than that. I totally get it. Yeah. Just kind of, I guess, wrapping up a little bit. I wanted to ask you, based off your career, because I think to me, it's something that is so mind blowing, and I think it's something to be proud of. I'm a believer of both of these things being true, but I want your perspective. What do you think it is to succeed in anything? Do you think it's luck or hard work? Or for me, I think it's a little bit of both.
I agree. It definitely is a little bit of both. I think that one of the most important things anybody could do is have a relationship with the self, to get a good sense of who am I, what do I want, what are my goals, what are my likes, what are my dislikes, what are the qualities in people that I appreciate, what are the qualities in myself that are strengths, what are my weaknesses. I think the more self-aware that you become, the clearer your path becomes, because if you know what you want, then you know where you need to go. And if you have a good sense of self, then people won't steer you off of whatever path is meant to be yours. People won't take away what you're passionate about. You won't give people that power. I think self-esteem, discipline, knowledge, emotional intelligence, health, I think all of those things contribute to success, and community. I think a sense of community is probably one of the most important things. Like having a group of people that you identify with, but also people that make you feel seen and make you feel like you are worthy of existing and being who you are and doing what you want to do. I think it's a combination of just really knowing yourself and surrounding yourself with people that make you feel good, and also discipline.
Definitely. Hard work.
What would you say as like to people who kind of want to take those steps of like, what would be something that you recommend to kind of, I guess, how you're saying of like having kind of like that motivation to kind of do and pursue what you want to do?
Mm-hmm. A lot of people are scared of success. They're afraid to take that leap of faith. And if you want to find success, you have to be okay with being uncomfortable. You have to be okay with contradicting yourself. You have to be okay with putting yourself out there in ways that you might not be used to. I would recommend people practicing tolerating uncomfortable life circumstances, but not like in a way that's like toxic, but like I mean like more so when there's an opportunity in front of you and you're like, what the hell do I do? Am I even good enough for this? Can I do this? Why me? I would just suggest not to be scared. If there's something that you know that like deep down you need to do, but you're too scared to do it, just do it. Like whatever it is that your intuition is telling you, I need to take this leap of faith, I need to go on this path, but everyone else thinks I'm crazy. No one else understands. I think it's important for people to realize that we never really know what the right or wrong answer is to things, or what the right or wrong path is. You only know what feels right for you. And what feels right for you might not make any sense to anyone else, but that's okay. It's okay to take risks as long as you're aware of the risks that you're taking. Mm-hmm. It's okay to contradict yourself, to change, to go in uncharted territory, to learn something new. It's okay to be bad at something. Honestly, it's just like, I don't want to say life is not that serious, because like it can be, but like life can be fun. Like you can do what you want. Like you can actually like your job. You can like having a family. You can like being married. You can like having, like you can live a beautiful life, but only if you allow yourself to. And in order to get the things that you want, there's always a point where you're gonna feel uncomfortable doing something. Yeah. So.
Wow, well said. Thank you. Brandon, do you have something to add?
I just want to say that was beautifully said.
That was well said.
And I wanted to express my gratitude for you being here and taking the time out of your day to be a guest on our show and talk to us. It means a lot to us. Honestly, when we approached you, I never thought you were going to say yes. So it's really nice of you to take the time out of your day to get this done with
Yeah.
us. So
Yeah.
thank you again.
I legit threw it out there. I was like, we should message her and we'll see if she replies to us.
Yeah.
Cause just to say a little bit more of like your music, I do get high to your music for sure.
I love that.
like listening to Garden and Fantasmas for sure always like gets me. But one of your songs for sure, like I would say one of your big songs, A Letter to My Younger Self for sure got me through 2020 for sure. Cause it was hard. It was hard for me for sure. And I feel like what was funny, and I told them too, is that a little bit before that, I had gone to Carlsbad where they have like the field of flowers, and I went with my boyfriend, and it was so beautiful. Like I love flowers and stuff, so I saw like flowers. It was for our anniversary actually, and not only were we gonna go to a flower thing, but he also bought me flowers, and I kept thinking about the song of like the universe is gonna give you muchas flores, and I just kept thinking about the song the whole entire time that I was there, and because for me that song mostly just talks about like going through like hard times, but one day you'll get out of it and it'll be beautiful, and like again the universe is going to give you muchas flores, as in like you'll get what's meant for you. And so to me that song was like super beautiful, and like I actually put it in my caption when I posted like my pictures, and then a couple of days later is when we messaged you, and I was like, damn, like that's so cool. I was like, I had just like thought about her, and like I was just thinking about the song. And the fact that you replied to us was even more of like for me, where I was like, oh my God, she's coming. She said, yeah. I was like, that's crazy. And then honestly, after that, I just kept listening to your music. I was like, I need a.
It's true. She's been blasting it.
I've been sending it to them. I was like, bro, like these songs. And again, like I was just doing more research on you, of course. And like, again, your music is really beautiful and your voice is really beautiful and unique to me, that I was just like, this is really cool that we're having her on the show. So thank you so much for being here and, you know, replying to us for sure.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You were an amazing guest, and it's been an amazing episode. And I'm really excited to see what's next for you too. Like, you already know the three of us will be here to support you.
Yeah. It's very intriguing for sure. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna buy your book.
I sat next to her.
Yeah.
When she gets the theory out and she becomes all like world famous in the history books, I'm gonna be like, guess what? She was right here.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Before we
are so sweet.
Yeah, before we go, just a quick shout out to all our
patrons. Yeah, shout out to Yuel, Jada Chicano, Angel Zamaron, Sarah without an H, Carlos, Stephen Carvajal, and Carla Corazon. Your patronage is greatly appreciated. Thank you again to everybody for watching. Thank you again to Amber Lucid for joining us. It meant a lot to us.
And I was going to add one last thing before we sign off. I wanted to thank everyone who came to our live show. That was really, really fun. For sure, I want to give a shout out to Lidi, because she came all the way from Georgia just to see us. She's a huge fan, and it was really, really nice meeting you. It was so surreal. I told you a lot, and I said thank you to you. So I hope she's watching this or listening to us. I hope you're listening
or watching this. I told you I would shout you out. You came from Georgia, so
shout out, bro. Shout out.
Thank you for all the support.
Yes,
thank you,
shout
guys.
out. And again, shout out to Amber Lucid. Thank you so much for coming on here. I don't know if you have any last words that you would like to say.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for sharing what you said about the flowers. That's a really cool synchronicity, and yeah, thanks to everybody for listening, and
happy 420.
Happy 420. If anybody was asking for a message from the universe, this is it, vibes. Whatever your gut is telling you that you need to do, or whatever confirmation you needed, this is me giving it to you. The universe loves you and wants you to do what makes you happy.
Yes. Boom. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
See ya.